Good morning. Good morning. For those that are new to the channel, I'm Cheryl Andrews, also known as the Listening Detective, and we are here on Make It Happy Monday. Now, normally I'm here at 9 o'clock, but I'm a bit later today, and I'm going to talk today a little bit about that because there has been a theme over the last few weeks with clients, and it's certainly something that's come up over the years of working with people who want to work, learn, and live at their best, is that this ability to be able to stop, be able to take a break. So if you're really struggling with switching off from work or family responsibilities, whatever it is, compartmentalizing things so you can focus on one thing at a time, this is the video for you. Please tune in and listen to some of the stories that I've got to share from clients, but also from myself, and some questions that you can ask yourself to get curious about what's happening. So for the last 10, 13 years now, I've been working with people who want to do more of what they love. They get frustrated because they don't do what they say they're going to do. And in all of that time, the one thing that's definitely crops up with people who work, learn and live at their best is they know how to pause. So I'm just going to put a little thing reminder at the bottom. So this is the sixth principle of motivated action is pause. So people who work at their best, learn at their best, live at their best, they know how to switch off. They know how to rest, restore and recharge. Now, when you start getting curious for yourself, switching off is like what? And you start being curious about your model, obviously, maybe not obviously, many of us are very, very different. For some people, it's a sort of gradual switching off. And for others, it's a kind of like an emergency alarm bell goes off and they just shut down. Now, there is no right or wrong. It's about finding out for you what works best for you. So I want to share a bit of a thing that happened at the weekend for me, because we're on Make It Happen Monday. And it's at the weekend, I found myself, for me, switching off. And this hasn't happened for a while, but it did happen again. I used to work at a bank, and we used to have like those an emergency, a hidden bulletproof screen. And if we felt we were in danger, we could hit the panic button, and the bulletproof screen would go up. Now, thank goodness, in all the time I ever worked at the bank, I never had to physically use it, but we had to test it once a week. And so I was used to it going up. But what I used to find is that when that shield went up, it was like my world got really small straight away. And the only people I could focus on were the people behind the screen. And whatever was going on the other side of the screen, I couldn't see it. And what I discovered is that for me, switching off used to be a bit like that. It used to be like sudden, and it would be like really up, like really quickly, which for me probably wasn't too bad, but for the people on the other side of the screen, or people who didn't necessarily want everything shut out, who were stuck this side with me, it wasn't particularly helpful or resourceful. And so something happened at the weekend where I was saying to my husband, I need to do this, I need to do that. And then I just went, I'm going to bed. And I went off to bed at 9:15 on Saturday night, and I didn't get up till 9:15 on Sunday morning. So I slept for 12 hours. Now, one of the things about getting to know yourself is when you can start to know your patterns and you find out your metaphor or your model for switching off for you is like what, then you can start being curious what works about that, what doesn't work about it, and what could work better. But if you think about the fourth principle of motivated action, which is patterns, if you can track this pattern over time, you can start to notice what the triggers are. So in my case, what is it that I see or hear or sense that makes me press the panic button and go, that's it, I've got to do it. Now, for me, the warning sign that I just need to shut down and shut out and rest is when I start being irritable with the people that I love the most. And so that afternoon, I said to my husband, I really want to get the painting done on the shed. Are you going to help me? And he is always really happy to help. So he came and joined me, and I'd gone out before and I started painting and it was all lovely. And then he came and joined me and he started talking, and it was really irritating. And I was like, I'm really sorry. I thought I wanted you to come and help me. But actually, what I really need more than anything right now is to do the painting in silence. I don't want or need to hear any voices. And he was just commenting on whether the paint was in the right place or whether the paint was running smoothly, or it wasn't doing anything particularly. I called it moaning. He said he was just making statements. But fortunately, because we've got the tools, we were able to have that conversation. And he went off and he had the radiator to fix, and I carried on painting. And what I realised in that moment is that when I hit the panic button, it's because I want to shut out visual stimuli, auditory stimuli, and I just need some time just to regroup and get my own nervous system back to its peak performance. And I'm just curious, and I'd love to hear from you this week, because in the age of information, we have got, we've constantly been stimulated. We're constantly having information out there. We've got marketing material that's being aimed at triggering the fear of missing out, the scarcity, you're going to fail if you don't do this and you have to do this now. So it's not surprising that when we read all of these options and we see all of the different ways that we can become overwhelmed and confused and frustrated with ourselves or other people, because there is so much choice out there. And I truly believe that the thing that's going to make the difference is when we can learn to switch off, when we can learn to hit the pause button as gently or as harshly or as quickly as you need to, but finding out what works for you to rest, restore and recharge. So with your blessing, I'm going to take you through the 7 principles now. And so the first one is purpose. So just thinking about when you rest, restore and recharge, when you switch off, when you learn to stop, then what happens? What's the benefits of doing it? What's the impact on you? What's the impact on your personal relationships? What's the impact on your business? What could be the impact on your community, your country, your world? What's the ripple effect of you being able to rest, restore and recharge? Okay, so that's the first thing. Know the purpose. What is going to be the impact? And also consider the impact of not doing it. What will happen to you, your family, your business, your community, the country, the world, if you do not learn how to stop, restore, recharge? So that's the purpose. The second one is the process. So thinking about if you can get clarity, if it was just the way you'd like it to be, it'd be like what? And consider what is happening now. What happens in between? Now, you could spend a lot of time on the internet listening to other people, but the first thing to do is actually look at your own model. Think about what's the first thing that happens, what's the second thing. So for me, what I'm noticing when I did this bit of modeling this morning is I've got this emergency panic button. But actually, if I notice the pattern that's happening, I can preempt and take that break before that happens. And I do know my rhythm. I know that I need 6 or 7 weeks. In fact, I'm due a weekend off on the 5th of November. That's my weekend. That's my sort of pacing. And I've had to work several weekends, chosen to work the last few weekends. And partly that's because I realised I needed to get up later in the day in order to be rested and restored. And therefore, to get the work done, I just moved a couple of hours to Saturday and a couple of hours to Sunday. So for me, it's about just noticing when I'm getting irritated. But what happens just before I'm getting irritated, I've noticed this week, is I'm usually saying to my husband something like, I need to watch less telly, or I need to do more of this, I need to stop eating chocolate, or I need to stop eating sugar. And I'm telling him what I need to do. And then he listens, and he just listens. He doesn't. And what I've realised is I've been waiting for him to say, okay, I'll join in with that. So what I've realised for me is I know what I need and I know what I want. But what happens is if the people around me are not joining in with me and not doing it with me, I'm less likely to go and do it. I'm less likely to take the action. So I'm being curious about that now and thinking about, how do I need to be and what resource and support do I need to be more confident of doing the things I need to do for myself. And the main thing that comes up, even just thinking about it with you just now, is I go, okay, I need to know that my relationship with my husband isn't going to be negatively impacted. And that also I do know that he said a couple of weeks ago that he feels like he never sees me. So if I keep doing things on my own, is it going to impact our relationship? So now that I know that, I can have that conversation with him. And I also know, because I've been through this process enough times, that none of this lasts forever. I'm not going to want to be on my own for very long, because eventually I want to be in together. And I know that work-life balance for me is time on my own, time with my husband, time in groups. And that whether that's, time one-to-one with people or time in groups, whether that's in the business world or the personal world, my rhythm has to be. And due to the pandemic, I've had far less time on my own. I haven't travelled anywhere and got alone time in the car. I haven't been on retreats where I had fly time, or I can just retreat when I'm running retreats and I'm away, we run the event for the clients. But when I go back to my room on my own in the evening, I have time on my own. So the the last 18 months, 2 years, for me personally, I've had far less alone time, because all of my alone time used to be built into doing things with and for others. And now I'm having to learn how to just simply say, I need some alone time, and be okay with doing that. So that's what's happening for me. So that's the process. The other thing is to notice progress. So what I do know is that I just said to my husband, I'm going to bed, I'm off now. And that was a lot less dramatic, a lot less crying, a lot less tears and shouting, and a lot less tantrum than I've done in the past. So although I have the same trigger and I've reacted quite quickly, I haven't done it with the emotional frustration that I've had before. Principle number 4 is know your patterns. So I know this is a pattern of mine. I know that I'm more motivated to do things with and for other people than I am purely for myself. But I also know, like the painting experience, if there are some things that I absolutely need to do on my own in order to feel completely rested, restored and recharged. And that when I do it with other people, that then involves conversation and then words, which tends to be, if I'm in overwhelm, I'm already exhausted, that having any of that external stimuli, it really impacts me. And I can read words, but it's the hearing of them that impacts me. So doing it with people, unless they're going to do it with me in silence, it's not going to happen. And even I find it difficult to stay silent unless we've got a agreed contract. So for me, that's the patterns. The other thing is about having a party of people around you, having people who get what it is you want to do, what you want to achieve, and particularly if you want to change a behaviour. So I know that there's one of my clients who came on our silent retreats in 2017, and we were just saying the other day that one day, we had one day of silence where we didn't speak for 10 hours. We spent 10 hours together and we just painted, and we didn't say one word all day. And it was the most peaceful day we've ever had. And I know that she would like to do it again. So I know I can go and do that with her, because I know that our needs and wants are the same. We both want to paint and we both want to be quiet for the day. And so getting the right party of people around you. Sometimes you're going to need a compassionate companion, someone that can listen to you. Sometimes you're going to have somebody who can be compassionate and say, actually, just go and do whatever you need to do, have the space you need. Sometimes you need a cheerleader, someone who's going to say, actually, even when you can't see it's going well, they can let you know that things are better or you're improving, or they can see the change even if you can't do it. And other times we need the coach. We need that person who's going to ask us questions, that's going to train our attention on what it is we actually want to have happen and what is happening when it's working. And also what's happening when it's not working, so that we can develop strategies and solutions for those times as well. And then the 6th principle we're talking a lot about today is the pause. So actually know what you need to rest, restore and recharge. And then given all that, 7th principle is the push. And so I know that doing more things on my own and being quieter for longer, because the brain is hardwired and it wants change and it doesn't want change, even though I want this to happen, because it is a change, it is going to be uncomfortable. So it's really important for me to know that the thing that I'm pushing through, the discomfort, is simply because it's a change. Because often what can happen is when it feels uncomfortable, we start doubting our original decision. We start doubting whether it's the right thing for us. When actually, if you understand how you do change, and you understand how you feel and what your experience of change is, I recognise this. It's this thing about, being separated from somebody. It's not, I don't like it. It's not comfortable. It's not familiar, but I know that the other side of this change is personal growth and an improved way of working, learning and living with other people. So I need to push through that, but I'll also need to push back, because when I change, it impacts the people around me. So, when I put the shutter up and I shut everybody out, obviously that's quite a harsh way of doing it. So what I'd like to have happen is be able to communicate to them what I want to have happen, when it's going to happen, why it's happening, so that they can understand why I'm pushing back, because that's a much healthier way than me just suddenly, getting stroppy and I get exactly what I want because I've stormed off and I'm on my own. But I'd rather just say, actually, I'm going to take an hour out. I need an hour of just complete quiet, or I need a day out, or even a week out, whatever it might be. And so knowing your own patterns, knowing your own process, means that you can actually push through the actual discomfort of change itself, but equally you can actually push back and set the boundaries when you need to. Hope you found this useful. I'd love to know your comments on the below. Let me know what you think. I'd love to know your model. When you're switching off, it's like what? That was kind of my model years ago, this abruptness, and it did happen again at the weekend. It hasn't happened like that for a while, so I'm going to be a bit curious this week about what's been happening over this week that made that happen. And I suspect, if I think about it, it's because for about 6 months I've been saying I need more time on my own, and I haven't been listening to myself. I've given myself some time, but it's obviously not enough time, or it's not long. It's not the right kind of activity that I'm doing. So I want to encourage you now today to think about switching off for you. Is like what happens just before you switch off, and what works about that switching off, what doesn't, and what could work better. I look forward to hearing what you learn. Please share below, because the feedback helps me know that what I'm saying is useful. Have a great week. Speak to you soon.